Hi, good morning. This is Derek Wazinski, and I'd like to thank you for attending our webinar, Educate from Home, Learn from Home, the New Normal in a Post-COVID-19 World. My name is Derek Wazinski. I am the Director of Sales for Parallels Americas, and I'll be presenting the webinar today. If you have questions throughout the course of the webinar, feel free to go ahead and engage through the chat function, which is located with the little chat balloon. You can go ahead and submit a question, and we'll feel free to answer that for you at the end of the presentation. Also, this presentation is being recorded. So as a participant and a registrant for this presentation, you have the ability to not only take the recording, but also a copy of the presentation deck for yourself as well. So we'll provide the links in an email afterwards in order to provide you the capability to go ahead and utilize it as you see fit. But with that, we're going to go ahead and get started here. Primarily, the reason for this webinar is everybody who has signed up for it, everybody who has an account on social media or has access to a newspaper or a television knows that the big talk right now over the last couple of weeks and probably for the foreseeable future is going to be how schools, both higher education and K through 12 organizations, open and open safely for both the students, the faculty, the staff, and the families of said students and of the communities in which these schools are a part of. So this webinar is a presentation about what is going on right now in the world of education, the conversations that are being had, some of the solutions that are being presented, and at the very end, what Parallels does as a work from home, educate from home provider that may be able to help you as you plan your K through 12 or higher ed organization opening up or at least getting students access to curriculum in the fall. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get started. So primarily first to take, one of the things you really have to take a look at when you're taking a look at the problem or the situation that we find ourselves right in is really taking a look at the overall numbers. How many students, how many educators, what are we talking about in education when we talk about education in America? Well, we're taking a look at both K through 12 and higher ed for the purposes of this particular webinar. So there's approximately almost 57 million students today in the United States that attend elementary, middle, and high schools across the United States. Now servicing those students, there's about 3.2 million public school teachers and about 460,000 other like administrators, principals, and other staff members in elementary and secondary schools that are currently thinking about what is going to be happening in the fall once the summer ends. Now, on the other side, when you talk about higher education, there's almost 20 million students that attend colleges and universities across the United States yearly, and that's full universities, that's colleges, that's two-year degree programs. Those are the students that are attending within the United States. There's over 1.5 million faculty that are educating these students and about 300,000 administrative employees within these degree granting post-secondary educational institutions. But that's not all, because remember, there's about 16 million students and about 50,000 instructors and administrators at trade schools and other educational service providers. So at the end of the day, when we take a look at what those numbers mean, is that currently right now in the United States, there's about 91 million students, full-time and part-time, and about 5 million educators and staff members that we need to figure out how to get them in classes or in education within their curriculum when school starts in the next 5 to 7 weeks, depending upon where you are and whether you're higher ed or whether you're post-secondary education or elementary school education. Now, this is not just a question that we have here at Parallels or you have within your organization. All over the country and really all over the world, organizations and countries and states and municipalities are looking at how are we going to go ahead and open safely for our students. So currently, and I went ahead and collated this information over the last couple of days. But currently, right now, there's kind of like a mixture, an amalgam of K through 12 back to school plans. Universities are primarily on their own. There is no directive from the state, nor is there a directive from a higher educational body saying you should or shouldn't open or what it's supposed to look like. But for K through 12 education, there's usually state guidelines. And as we take a look here, we've identified kind of four different models that are currently in operation right now. The first model is a full open model, where they're saying when school starts, we're going to open the doors and students are going to come in. So everything that you see that is orange yellow within this map has established that they're going to be full open. But when you take a look at full open, those are the state guidelines. The state guidelines are full open. But if you simply go to Idaho, which is a solid yellow state when it comes to whether or not it's going to open in the fall, in West Ada School District, one of the largest school districts, students can choose between in-person and virtual instruction. In Boise, with the Boise Independent School District, they haven't even made a plan yet. They have no plan. They don't know whether they're going to open fully or they're going to offer online education. In Nampa School District, the students are going to be able to choose between in-person and online instruction. So whether it be Illinois, where Chicago Public Schools still doesn't have a plan, whether it be Louisiana, where it looks as if they don't even have a plan at all because they're highlighted in red, that there's also within individual districts plans being made for an online or a hybrid type of model. So first off, so in all of these states that you see that are orangey yellow, while their states are saying we're going to open the doors, individual school districts and individual administrators and school boards and that are making the decision on a case-by-case basis. Currently in the United States, there's no K through 12 plan for a full online back-to-school program. Many states have established what I'm calling and what I'm identifying as a hybrid, meaning there's going to be some in-school and some online learning for the students in order to reduce class size, which we'll go into a little bit more. But even in states like California, which they've identified that everyone is going to have a hybrid opportunity, just yesterday, both LA School District and San Diego Unified School District both announced through the news media that they are going to a full 100% online model for their students. So for LA and San Diego, there would be two little purpley dots in this big sea of green for what's going on within California. And in many states, when you take a look at what's in red, they have no plan whatsoever. In the state that I currently am in right now, the governor, as of yesterday, has stated there's really no plan. There's some guidelines, but there's really no plan being put into place. And each school district is going to have to make the determination based upon infection rates, based upon the boots on the ground kind of analysis of what's going on in these within these areas and within these organizations. So whether it be Florida, New York, California, Texas, or any number of these states, when you take a look at what those back to school plans are, I think what you're really taking a look at, and again, this is my personal thought process, someone who's in charge of trying to address this issue, not only for my organization, but also for my own family. I think the back to school plans by September are going to look a lot like this, meaning that everybody is going to be established with a hybrid model. I think the best plans, I think the good Lord goes ahead and starts laughing when we start making plans, right? So one of the things that we're looking at here is that most states and most school districts are going to have some mixture of online learning and in-person learning by September, by fall, when we get into the next phase of the coronavirus. And the reasons primarily is, as LA and San Diego have stated, that there's really a public health imperative, to keep schools from becoming a petri dish. I have a fourth grader, and I can tell you that every classroom is a petri dish. And the problem is that the issues is how do you go ahead and identify the best plan or the best way to go ahead and keep kids from being exposed and infected and those types of things. And what we have to really kind of realize is that when all of these plans were first established and made, we were kind of right here in the terms of the new cases by day. Right now we're here, and it's really hard to see that the plans we made when we needed to go ahead, when we first closed the schools, are the plans that we're going to establish and the plans we're going to carry through as we go here. So, so when we really take a look at looking at a school or an educational organization, higher ed or K through 12, we have to look at a number of different things. The challenge is going to be most organizations are going to have to rethink their capabilities, and they're going to have to create some type of hybrid where they can blend in-person and remote learning experiences to create a safer environment. Now, when we say safe, we mean 3 different levels of safety, because there's not just one level of safety, whereas you're not getting sick. That's the first level. But when you take a look at safety, there's 3 different levels of safety. And what we're really talking about is physical safety. Students and educators can work in a place where they are able to stay active, healthy, and safe, and minimize exposure to pathogens that cause illness. That's the very first level that you need to establish in an educational setting, physical safety. But on top of that, there's a cognitive safety that you have to provide, meaning that once people are in that environment, whatever environment you've created, people feel like they can focus on teaching and learning and not be distracted by a fear for their personal safety. So they have to feel that the implementation of the hybrid plan that you've established is keeping them physically safe enough that they don't have to worry about being physically safe and they can concentrate on learning. And then once you get through that phase, you have the third phase, which is emotional safety, where not only are you feeling safe, but you feel supported and you have a sense of belonging, which is incredibly important and hard to do in a 100% online learning environment, so that they can be confident that administrative organizations can have done everything possible to create that self-safe environment, especially for those who may be of higher risk. And those are the 3 different levels of safety that you really have to take a look at, because what you don't want is to create a process or create a solution set that you expose yourself to this, where there's a happy-go-lucky, like, okay, where everything's going to be fine, and then people start getting sick, parents start pulling their children out of school, those types of things. So you have to really cognizantly think about and work on that particular part of your plan. So how do you do that? Well, learning spaces, and everyone here in this webinar is involved in learning in some function or another. They were designed in a pre-COVID world, and they were not designed to mitigate or to stop or to slow down the spread of any type of disease. We all know this for kids that have come home from school with the flu or with the cold and the sniffles, and then everybody in the house has the sniffles. This is things that happen on a regular basis. Educators need to make choices, both with technology, with furniture, with facilities, with others, that they can adapt existing spaces to meet those new safety challenges presented by the pandemic. Again, establishing that level of hybrid model. And so what you have to do is you have to take classrooms that look like this and make them look like this. You have to take classrooms that look like this and make them look like this. And what are we really talking about? We're talking about density. The number of people in an enclosed area is the single biggest problem education organizations have with battling the COVID pandemic, because there are just so many classrooms, there are just so many facilities that you have in which to go ahead and put students and faculty and teachers and everyone within the same building. And it's very easy for me to say, well, you can take these 30 kids in this first grade classroom and you can make it a 15 student classroom. Well, the problem is, are you going to double the number of teachers you have? Or are you going to start building more schools? How many annexes can you have? How many trucks with flatbeds can you bring onto your campus to go ahead and expand the number of classrooms? To go, how many teachers do you have? Do you have 2x the number of instructors or teachers you have in order to do that? Many K through 12 and higher ed organizations don't, and that's the big problem. Student density is the huge problem when you're trying to address this particular issue. So some solutions, and when you're crafting a particular solution, when you're trying to go ahead and create, is that you have to address three different needs. The now need, which is right now, we're still in the middle of the first wave of the virus, that portions of learning experience, including some classes or activities, can be held on campus or held within the facilities, while online learning can continue for many. Again, it's that hybrid model We're like New York, they're staggering for, so the plan is for New York public schools is that they'll go ahead and stagger that. The kids will be in class 3 days a week and then they'll be online 2 days a week. Well, anybody that's ever had a third grader or a fourth grader knows that's going to be incredibly difficult and hard to do anyway. Trying to go ahead and establish that. But that's like the thing that we have to think of right now as we're trying to think about how opening schools in this kind of hybrid manner in the fall. So that's the now phase. The near phase is as education is being brought back and in-person classes are being brought back, you have to experience and create an experience that you can reconfigure the learning in the common spaces. And we'll get into a little bit there. So even bringing all 30 kids into one classroom with the same level of seating assignments and the same geometry between the students may not be the best ideal thing for you to do as you move forward within the school year. And then you're looking at FAR, is that how can you reinvent based upon science-based evidence and emerging technologies, how can you reinvent the educational experience where you can craft it in a certain way where you can be flexible and be able to adapt quickly to economic, climate, and health disruptions. So let's take a look at health disruptions here. Let's say you get to the point within your district or your educational organization where you bring 30 people back into a classroom, and then there's a spike for the virus in your metropolitan area. And just like California did yesterday, they start closing things down again. Are you ready to go ahead and go from a 30-person classroom to a 0-person classroom and getting everybody back online again? I can tell you, for instance, my own school district here within the state of Washington was caught flat-footed during the first wave, where they had to actually take an additional spring break week off to facilitate some type of online learning solution because they did not know how they were going to do it, because first they were going to close the schools just for the month of March, and then they closed them all the way to April, and then they closed them to May, and then by the fourth time they closed them for the rest of the year. So they were kind of locked down in a solution that they did not know how to go ahead and utilize. So they took 2 weeks off. Our kids, our educational organizations can't take an additional 2 weeks off in order to do that in the fall. I've been to enough parent-teacher conferences, enough PTO meetings, and enough school board meetings that that's just simply not going to happen. And I can tell you this, is that there's already conversations within the higher education community. Why are people paying X amount of dollars a credit hour if it's 100% online instruction? When they're paying for the ability to go to the University of Virginia or the University of Ohio or a number of different University of Michigan. I'm originally from Michigan. You know, people pay premium to live in Ann Arbor and to live on campus and to go to school. If that's 100% online model for the foreseeable future, how does one attest to the fact that someone needs to pay full price for that particular class hour? And again, that's not a judgment that I'm making. That's a conversation and a question we have to address, because those are what parents and students are going to be asking in the fall and in the next year, 2021, as we move forward. So students have to feel safe, and they have to feel safe with the confidence that the virus is going to spread when there's in-person instruction. And that's just not me talking. That's someone from a Big Ten university. So the president of Michigan State knows that the coronavirus is going to spread when students come back in the fall. Absolutely knows it with scientific certainty. While safety is paramount, he has to also, and they have to figure out exactly how they're going to manage confidence with their students and faculty and the willingness to abide by the number of things they're going to have to put into place in order to have on-campus learning, whether it's going to be mask wearing, whether it's going to be the geometry of the classrooms, whether it's going to be staggered learning, whether it's going to be differences in the way kids are living on campus. Those are all questions that need to be addressed. Now, when I first created this deck a couple weeks ago, there were about 860 institutions. Their plans, 2/3 of them said that they were planning to welcome back students in person. Only 7% were planning to hold classes online. In the 2 weeks since this slide has been created, We all have read the paper, we've all watched TV. That's drastically changed with organizations like Stanford and Harvard and others that are saying they're going to a 100% online model in the fall. So those are organizations that are looking right now on how they're going to go ahead and craft this level of solution. One such organization is the University of Boulder, or the University of Colorado Boulder. And what they're planning to do is they're planning to actually have some first students housed in what they're calling social cohort groups. And what they're going to be doing is they're going to be in smaller groups that they're going to be tied to the courses that they're registered to take. So really, like in the regular semester, students would have about 40 or 50 different students that they would be interacting with. In this kind of semester, in a post-COVID semester, they're going to only be interacting with like 10 students, 10 first-year students that they normally would, which means that would reduce their population density by a factor of 5, which they hope, and again, this is a scientific hope, it's a kind of hypothesis, that they hope will go ahead and help mitigate some of the problems they have with the virus. And that's from the Chancellor, Philip DeStefano, when he was talking to CNN about this particular plan. So all these different plans, all of these different conversations that are being had, all focus around density. Schools, and that's the K through 12 as well as higher ed, need to think creatively about how they're going to reduce social density on their campuses and within their buildings by trying to make use of a significant amount of space so they can include separating people in common areas, in classrooms, in conference rooms, and administrative offices. Now, anyone who's ever been in a middle school or anybody who's ever been on a college campus knows that space and common areas and classroom size, people are jammed into those locations. And the issue is that how can organizations reimagine the way those facilities look in order to relocate faculty and staff away from, even administrative, like in the administrative office. If you've ever walked into a university administration office, you notice the number of cubicles and the number of open workspaces that are there where people interact. All of those have to be reimagined. All of those have to be reestablished. How do you go ahead and do that? And what are the rules in which you're looking at? Because at the end of the day, what you really want is you want to take something that looks like this, where people are on top of each other in either a K through 12 or a higher education classroom setting, and turn it into something like this. Now, is it impossible? Or is this possible? Well, some organizations think that it's possible, and they have a kind of a staggered approach. One of our customers that we deal with, and one of the organizations that's pretty thinking future sight as far as how to do this, is Fairfax County Public Schools, and they've released a couple of different scenarios in which they're going to go ahead and open schools. Now, the superintendent has recommended that there's going to be two scenarios. The first two scenarios would be families can request to attend school with social distancing, and they can also then request to enroll in a full-time online program for the entire school year. So that's scenario 1, and that's scenario 3. Staff would also have two scenario options, which would be scenario 2. Staff would request to teach in person with social distancing, and then they would also be able to request that they could go ahead and teach online for the school year. And this would be based upon curriculum value and the type of course. There are some courses that lend themselves to online learning a lot better than some courses that require in-person learning. There are some courses that you can do 2 days online and 3 days on site, and vice versa. So when you get this deck and you get this, there's an actual link right here to the actual plan that you can take a look at. And this is the draft plan that Fairfax is working on. And we felt it was pretty important for you to take a look at and really kind of look at it how other organizations within your own space are trying to go ahead and manage this particular challenge. So when we take a look at educate from home, what do we really mean? Well, what we really mean is the ability to go ahead and provide a level of education to students that provides a smaller class size, that provides a reduction in density, and not only in the classes, but in the common areas, that provides the ability to use technologies like video and collaboration solutions, where you can get to reducing density with smaller class size, where you can use geometry and division within the physical plant of those classrooms in order to go ahead and perpetuate a smaller, less dense physical location for students and staff. And then design for adaptability. And what does that mean, design for adaptability? Well, remember, this is a current look at what infection rates and what new case rates look like right now for COVID-19. And as you take a look at it, and again, as a remind you, we've never made it out of the first phase, or first wave. We're still in the first wave of the virus, right? And here we are in the middle of summer, and we're still increasing the number of cases. And remember, most of these plans were created at this level. So we have to really take a look at adaptability. Let's say you get to the point where you create your plan, and all of a sudden you get a spike. How can you go ahead and change it? Is there change built into the plan for you to go ahead and provide that level of education to your students and faculty? So what's the easiest way to prepare? Well, the easiest way to prepare, and I know it's oversimplified, but it's have as many people work or learn from home as possible. That's the easiest way to go ahead and reduce density within your facilities. You can move all the furniture you want. You can bring all the tractor trailers and provide the annexes on your campus. But the clear fact is the easiest way to go ahead and establish a less dense physical classroom is to have 50% of them learning from home. Now, currently within the education space, most organizations are Windows-based. About 60% of all the devices that are utilized in educational classrooms right now are Windows-based. Large majority of orgs still utilize traditional desktop and laptop technologies for most end users. Even though many have apps that are web-enabled or they work with cross-platform students and staff, students and staff like and prefer to use the often more robust Windows applications that they're used to. And the end user devices, this comes directly from the Global Education Census Report in 2019, but the number of students or the percentage of students that use desktop computers in a classroom right now is 48%. 42% utilize smartphones, 33% utilize interactive whiteboards. The percentage of staff that use tablets right now and students, about 20%, and really the majority, 90%, still use paper and pencil within their classrooms. And that's and trying to convert that level of education to a more online or to a more digital model is one of the big blocks behind getting people out of the classroom working from home or educating from home. And that's when we get to some of the biggest impediments to educate from home. The first is which students, right? Students and the lack of an easy button for end users to utilize their apps or their desktops remotely from a home or remote location. I can tell you the first couple of weeks of my own daughter logging in and getting acclimated to an online work environment, this was the biggest impediment for her and her friends, her classmates. But also for the teacher. So there was issue with staff, and teachers, most teachers, especially elementary and middle school teachers, we don't hire those people for their IT technical acumen unless they're teaching computer programming or something like that. But if you're an art teacher, if you're a science teacher, if you're a mathematics teacher, you're used to standing in front of a class, standing at a blackboard or a whiteboard and teaching a class. You are not used to doing everything through a Zoom meeting or through a webcam. So the lack of an easy button for IT to able to ramp up and to provide that level of functionality to staff and to faculty is incredibly a big impediment to educate from home. And then of course the administrative cost, right? The administrative cost to get everybody ramped up to do that. Both higher ed and K through 12 IT budgets are already stretched to the breaking point and they're tight. And the challenge is how do you go ahead and repurpose the monies that you've already been able to go ahead and budget for these new needs, for these needs that no one was ready for in this kind of post-COVID world. So Parallels, and when it comes to Parallels and Educate from Home, 85%, we've had an increase over the last 6 months now of Educate from Home customers with our disparate technologies, with our couple technologies that we have, and we'll go into that. But we've been doing Educate from Home and Work from Home for our customers for over 20 years. This is something we just cooked up in the garage a couple days ago. We've been doing this for quite a while, and we kind of know our stuff when it comes to how to get students and faculty working and educating from home as they need to. And even third-party organizations like IDC Marketplace has positioned us as a major player when it comes to virtual client computing, which is the largest and the easiest way in order to get students and faculty working and educating and learning from home, which is through virtual computing. Parallels, in a nutshell, is a company that's over 20 years old. We have an international workforce. Over 7 million people daily are running Parallel solutions, and over 50,000 businesses trust us with their mission-critical needs. We have a whole portfolio of solutions, but for education from home and learn from home, there's kind of 3. We have one called Parallels Desktop. We have one called Parallels Mac Management for Microsoft SCCM, and we have one called Parallels Remote Application Server. And we're going to talk a little bit about how each of those work within the educational organizations right now to help people facilitate a more hybrid model when it comes to educating from home. So first off, if you have Mac devices or Chrome devices and you need to run versions of Windows or Windows applications, we have something called Parallels Desktop. And what Parallels Desktop does is it runs on a Chromebook or it runs on a Windows device, and it allows you to run a fully functioning Windows application on that device. Well, how does that work? Well, the American School in Japan is one such education that currently utilizes Parallels desktops. The school is able to go ahead and save about $24,000 every 3 years from not having to buy additional Windows and Intel hardware, because we all know Mac hardware lasts longer and it's more robust because of the OS. So they utilize these MacBooks in order to go ahead and run specific Windows-only based programs. In this instance, we're looking at AutoCAD, which is a very robust architectural design, mechanical design program that does not have a Mac or a Chromebook version, that does not really have an online or a SaaS-based version, that is running in a Windows session on a MacBook. And the IT team for the American School in Japan finds it very easy to manage these licenses and experiment with different VMs so their students can work remotely on very robust applications from the confines of their own home over a Wi-Fi connection, as opposed to coming on campus and working in a computer lab, which is very expensive. Now, Parallels Mac Management for SCCM, that is an administrative program that allows you to utilize SCCM, which is actually an application that many of you may know that you manage your Windows devices on, that allows you to manage Mac devices. And we have a couple of colleges that utilize that. One such is West College in Scotland, that manages all of its Windows, Mac, and iOS devices through a single interface, which is their interface right here, which is their SCCM interface. They can standardize hardware and software asset management, software metering, and patch management, even integrate Apple DEP and a couple other things in order to go ahead and manage all devices across the board. And these are devices located on site, and these are devices located remotely over Wi-Fi connections as well. And West Scotland isn't actually our only higher education. It's one of the case studies that we utilize, but we have customers from Washington County Public Schools, which is a K through 12 organization that utilizes Parallels Mac Management, to Yale University, which manages every single Mac and iOS device within their organization through SCCM, utilizing Parallels Mac Management. But the most robust application that we currently have right now for the EFH solution that you may be looking at as you're thinking about your school reopening in the fall is Parallels Remote Application Server. And Customers like the University of Cambridge utilize Remote Application Server to provide virtual machine interfaces for students, support, and teachers that need access to learning material or classroom material on their devices from anywhere at any time. They allow not only that, but RAS allows the University of Cambridge and others to extend a bring your own device support model without needing to touch those machines or interact with any of those operating systems. I can tell you one of the big challenges we had here in Washington State when we had when COVID first hit and we had to go to an online working model is not every child, not every person had the same level of home machine. They didn't have the same level of laptop or Chromebook or anything else like that. So the applications running Google Classroom, running all the other stuff that people needed to run, it was a catcher's catch can of how you were going to go ahead and run that. But with Parallels RAS, all you need to do is set up the virtual machine, whether it be for a full Windows session or a single Windows application, and it can run the same, whether it be an iOS device, a Mac device, a Chrome device, or a Windows device, or an Android device. So any number of different devices can run that particular application the exact same way. And this allows not only students, but also the IT team to allow simple access to students, teachers, and administrators. So when we look at Parallels, Parallels looks to be a fully servicing EDU technological partner to you as you're trying to optimize whatever plan you're trying to establish within your own educational facility. We want to provide you the level of mobility that you need to enable access to all the tools that you're providing your students and your faculty and your administration, whether they're in the physical classroom or outside the physical classroom. What this provides you is a level that when the student is in the classroom, the Chromebook and the applications that they use, they just take that Chromebook and they take it to their home and they open it up, and it's the same level of functionality that they get in the classroom, which reduces the need to re-educate and re-facilitate and retrain students, staff, and teachers on how to do basic classroom activities on those devices. It provides you a level of freedom in the type of applications you want to run. So you don't have to worry about running a certain application for Windows and a certain application for your MacBooks and a certain application for your Chromebooks. It's all in one. And we do that through virtual desktop capability, where you can create virtual desktops or virtual applications that run either fully functioning as full Windows sessions or transparently to the end user, where they simply get on their Chromebook and they click an app and it on the desktop, and it looks the same in Windows as it looks the same in Chromebook. And what it hopefully does then, it provides you that level of productivity where you can empower your students and staff to get their work done efficiently, but also with those 3 levels of safety that we talk about. Well, how do we move forward in something like this? How do we go ahead and what are the next steps? Well, the next steps is first to have a conversation with us and discover what your plan is and what you're looking to do. Are you looking to fully open up? Are you looking to a more hybrid model? What are you attempting to do, and how can we go ahead and help? And then what we can do is we can demonstrate what the functionality is for the different solutions that you're looking at. And then we want you to go ahead and try. We want you to test out and try for right now what you're taking a look at, because quite honestly, many of you are going to be starting back up in 5 to 7 weeks, if not sooner. There are many organizations and many K through 12 orgs that are going to be opening up next month, within the next 2 or 3 weeks. So trialing and testing and making sure that these situations and these technologies work for you are paramount right now, and that's how we can help. But what we really want to go ahead and communicate is, we can help you get through this. COVID came in as a big dark cloud, and now what it's done is there's a bunch of different things that we have to go ahead and traverse, a bunch of different hills we have to get. We have to get over the physical safety hill, we have to get over the cognitive safety hill, and we have to get over the emotional safety hill in order to get to the point where we can go ahead and educate students. And Parallels can help, because at the end of the day, we all want to return students to campus. We want the kids to get back to school. This will help provide them the education that they need moving forward. And by providing a blended in-person and remote learning experience, you can help create and provide a safer environment for students, educators, and administrators. And again, we're here to help you through this. And those people are located here on this page. This is my North American team, and they are ready, willing, and able to help you regardless of the state, municipality, or province that you're in right now, how we can go ahead and help you figure out how to open your classrooms either virtually, physically, or in some type of hybrid mode when school is ready to start in the fall. And with that, I'd like to thank you for your time today. Appreciate you spending time with me, communicating your needs, and anything that we can do to help you moving forward, we will. Those of you that have registered, you'll get a copy not only of this presentation, but you'll also get a link to the recording. Thanks so much for your time today. Please have yourself a wonderful rest of your day, and please remember that Parallels is here to help you as you move forward with your classroom planning.